The galaxy had long forgotten Earth, at least in the minds of most alien civilizations. Across countless star systems, humans were seen as weak, slow, and insignificant. They were considered a primitive species, still clinging to their blue planet, a species that would never reach the heights of interstellar power. For centuries, alien intelligence reports had described humanity as a curiosity at best and a trivial annoyance at worst. Their technology was considered basic, their military weak, their diplomacy laughable. Among the stars, humans were a joke, and many galactic leaders openly dismissed the small, distant world with barely a thought. But Earth had been quietly preparing. In secret facilities scattered across the planet, humans worked tirelessly on technologies that would one day challenge these assumptions. The military was training its best minds and soldiers, and scientists were inventing tools and weapons that no alien could have predicted. Humanity's growth had been slow, careful, and largely hidden from the rest of the galaxy. While other civilizations assumed Earth was harmless, humans were quietly preparing for a confrontation that many thought impossible. Every mission, every experiment, and every training exercise was done with one goal in mind: proving that humans were not to be underestimated. On this particular day, the command center of the human military was unusually silent. Normally, the base hummed with activity, a controlled chaos of communication, strategy, and logistics. Today, there was a tension in the air that could almost be felt. The quiet was different, almost sacred. High-ranking officials and the top officers of the human fleet moved with purpose, their faces stern, their expressions betraying a mixture of fear, anticipation, and determination. Every person in that room understood the stakes. Today, humanity would do something it had never done before: send just one ship into the heart of enemy territory. This was not a drill, not a simulation, and not an exercise. This was real, and the consequences could be catastrophic. The ship in question was the Titan-class warship Rises, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. Unlike other ships, Rises was not just a weapon. It was a statement. Every inch of its hull was reinforced with advanced materials that could withstand weapons most alien fleets relied upon to obliterate entire planets. Its engines were capable of maneuvers that rivaled even the fastest vessels in known space. Its weapon systems were cutting-edge, designed for precision strikes, rapid response, and adaptability. The ship itself was formidable, yes, but the true strength lay in its crew: elite soldiers, engineers, and tacticians who had trained their entire lives for this mission. The crew gathered on the bridge, a space filled with glowing panels, flickering lights, and holographic displays that projected the vastness of space around them. Each member moved with quiet confidence. But beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of tension. They were about to face a fleet many times larger than their own capabilities could ever hope to match. The mission was clear. Earth had chosen to deploy a single ship as a symbol, a spearhead, a test of both strategy and courage. It was a gamble of unprecedented scale, but every human on that vessel understood its importance. They knew that their actions could alter the course of history. Families of the crew members waited in hidden observation rooms and secure communication hubs. They were kept informed in real time, though the details were often vague to protect the mission. Mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters held their loved ones in quiet fear. They had seen the simulations, the drills, the endless preparations, and yet nothing could prepare them for the reality that their sons, daughters, husbands, and wives would be stepping into what was effectively a death trap. Even with the most advanced technology, even with the smartest minds, the humans aboard the Rises were facing near impossible odds. And yet, despite the danger, the families also felt a flicker of pride. This was humanity showing that it could rise to the challenge, that even a single ship could carry the hopes of an entire species. On the bridge, the captain of the Rises, Commander Alaric Kane, stood before the crew. He was a man of average height but extraordinary presence, his eyes sharp, his voice calm yet commanding. He looked at each member of his team, silently acknowledging their skills, their dedication, and their courage. He understood the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. Every decision he made in the coming hours could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. He was aware that alien fleets were counting on fear, on hesitation, and on human mistakes. His mission was to ensure there were none. The crew, in turn, trusted him completely. The countdown to departure began. The hum of engines deep in the bowels of the ship started low, almost imperceptible, then gradually grew louder, vibrating through the floor of the bridge. The Rises was coming alive, a living machine ready to face the unknown. Crew members checked and rechecked every system, from propulsion to navigation to weapons. Every procedure had been drilled so many times that their movements were almost instinctive. Even with such preparation, there was a human element that no simulation could capture: the fear, the adrenaline, and the knowledge that this mission could cost them everything. Outside the ship, the stars stretched endlessly, cold and indifferent. The galaxy did not care about humanity's struggles, its dreams, or its courage. And yet, the humans aboard the Rises felt a strange kinship with that emptiness. Space was dangerous, vast, and unpredictable, but it was also a place where their ingenuity could shine. the vast emptiness could either swallow them whole or become a canvas upon which they painted the story of human determination. They were stepping into a void where no one had ever dared to go alone, armed with nothing but courage, strategy, and the knowledge that the galaxy underestimated them. As the final seconds ticked away, the crew held their positions, each heartbeat echoing in their ears. Commander Kane gave a final nod, and the engines roared to life. The Rhesus lifted off with a force that pressed the crew into their seats, and the ship's massive hull gleamed as it pierced the atmosphere and entered orbit. From the observation decks, Earth looked small and fragile, a blue gem floating in the infinite darkness. For the crew, it was both a reminder of what they were fighting for and a weight on their shoulders. One mistake could mean the end, not just for them, but potentially for humanity itself. The ship passed through the final layers of the planet's defenses, automated systems that monitored the skies and ensured the safety of every departing vessel. Beyond this, there would be no more support, no more reinforcements, just the Rhesus, the crew, and the vast unknown. Communication with Earth would be limited, and in the event of disaster, the mission would be over before help could arrive. And yet, the crew felt a surge of pride and determination. This was the culmination of human perseverance, intelligence, and courage. They were not just a crew, they were a symbol, the spearhead of a species that refused to be ignored. As the Rhesus accelerated into the darkness of space, the crew braced for what was to come. Every sensor scan, every weapon check, every calculation was critical. They moved like a single organism, each person playing a vital role in the survival of the ship and the mission. And while fear lingered in their hearts, it was tempered by an unshakable resolve. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. Now, with a single ship, they would show the galaxy that humans were not to be dismissed. That one ship, small against the vastness of enemy forces, carried the hopes, dreams, and pride of an entire species. Even in the silence of space, the crew could almost hear the echo of generations that had fought and survived against impossible odds on Earth. They drew strength from it, from the knowledge that human ingenuity had triumphed before and could do so again. Every star, every asteroid, every fragment of cosmic dust that passed by was a reminder that the universe was vast, indifferent, and challenging, but also a place where courage could shine brighter than any weapon. The Rhesus was not just a ship, it was the embodiment of human resilience, and its crew were the living proof that even the smallest force could challenge the mightiest enemy if determination and strategy guided it. And so, as the Rhesus disappeared into the dark expanse of space, leaving Earth behind, the crew felt a mix of fear, pride, and anticipation. They knew that what awaited them was uncertain, dangerous, and possibly deadly. But they also knew that this mission, daring as it was, could change the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. They were about to enter a battle that no one believed they could win. And yet, for the first time in centuries, the humans aboard that lone ship felt a certainty that transcended fear. They were ready. The galaxy was about to witness what one ship, guided by human courage and determination, could achieve. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the Rhesus, a lone silhouette against the backdrop of distant stars. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, fully aware that the galaxy beyond Earth's protective borders was unforgiving. Every crew member felt the weight of the mission pressing upon them, a mix of pride, fear, and unshakable determination. This was no longer about practice drills or simulations. They were moving into the unknown, into enemy territory where the odds were heavily stacked against them. Reports had warned them of the alien armada waiting in the system ahead. Intelligence suggested that the fleet outnumbered their lone warship by 100 to 1. Each vessel in the enemy armada was far larger, faster, and more heavily armed than anything humans had previously encountered. That aliens were confident, believing that a single human ship posed no real threat. They assumed this would be an easy victory, a simple demonstration of their superiority. They could not have been more wrong. The Rhesus was equipped with technologies that the aliens could not anticipate. Its propulsion systems allowed for extreme maneuverability, enabling the ship to perform movements that seemed impossible to any observer. Its energy shields could absorb hits that would destroy other ships instantly, and its weapons systems were designed not just to inflict damage, but to exploit weaknesses that only humans could detect. Yet despite all this advanced technology, the crew understood one critical truth: technology alone would not win the battle. Their success would depend on human skill, intuition, and courage. Commander Alaric Kane stood on the bridge, observing the navigation displays and listening to reports from the crew. Every second, every calculation mattered. The slightest misjudgment could spell disaster. His mind raced through strategies, contingency plans, and escape routes, but he knew the best approach was not to hesitate. Hesitation could cost them the mission or their lives. He glanced at the young navigator, who was monitoring the trajectory with a focused intensity that belied his nerves. Each crew member was acutely aware that failure was not an option. They were humanity's first line of defense, the embodiment of Earth's resilience. The stars themselves seemed to blur as the Rhesus accelerated toward the enemy system. Sensors scanned the surrounding space constantly, detecting even the smallest anomalies or threats. Yet the alien fleet was vast, and their formation was designed to intimidate as much as to attack. Countless ships glimmered in the darkness, forming a wall that stretched across the void like a living shadow. The sheer scale of the armada was overwhelming, a reminder that humans were venturing into a situation that no single vessel should survive. And yet, as the risers approached, the crew felt a strange confidence. They had trained for this. They were ready. Tactical discussions filled the bridge, though they were calm and precise. Crew members exchanged data and predictions about the alien fleet's movements. They analyzed potential weak points, expected attack patterns, and the most effective way to maneuver. Every crew member contributed their expertise, from weapons officers to engineers to communication specialists. There was no room for error. Even a single missed calculation could allow an enemy vessel to gain an advantage. But humanity had an edge the aliens could never anticipate: unpredictability. The human mind, capable of creative thinking and split-second improvisation, was as lethal as any weapon. The alien fleet was not waiting passively. Scouts and sensors detected the risers early, and alerts spread across the armada. Alien commanders assumed it would be a minor diversion, a ship sent on a futile reconnaissance mission. They prepared to engage, confident that their overwhelming numbers would guarantee victory. Yet their overconfidence was a critical flaw. Humans thrived on challenges, and the crew of the risers had been preparing for this moment for decades. Every drill, every test, every battle simulation had been designed to overcome overwhelming odds. They were about to turn expectation into advantage. As the ship drew closer to the edge of the enemy formation, the crew could feel the tension intensify. The hum of the engines was almost deafening, a constant reminder of the energy and power at their disposal. Every panel on the bridge glowed with activity, each screen displaying critical information about speed, trajectory, and the positions of distant enemy vessels. Outside the windows, the alien fleet appeared closer than ever, a glittering wall of hostile intent stretching across the blackness of space. The crew could almost sense the aliens' confidence, the assumption that humans were insignificant, and that one ship could be crushed effortlessly in the war room back on Earth. Leaders monitored the progress in real time, though with limited communication to preserve the mission's secrecy. Families of the crew remained in secure observation areas, anxious but silently proud. They knew the dangers, understood the stakes, and yet they trusted the humans aboard the risers. Each member of the crew carried not only their own life but the collective hopes of humanity. It was a pressure unlike any other, yet they had been prepared for it since the beginning. The first test of the ship's capabilities came unexpectedly. A group of enemy drones, smaller and faster than the main vessels, appeared on sensors, moving to intercept the risers. The crew responded instantly. Weapons systems were activated, and energy pulses were launched with precise timing. The drones were destroyed before they could close in, a testament to both human technology and split-second decision-making. Even the smallest success in this environment was crucial, a reminder that attention to detail could mean survival. The crew knew that each engagement was a lesson, a chance to adapt and anticipate the larger battle ahead. Commander Kane issued orders with calm authority, coordinating the ship's maneuvers and monitoring energy reserves. The risers darted between asteroid fields and debris clusters, using the environment to its advantage. Each maneuver was designed not only to avoid enemy fire but to confuse and disrupt the alien fleet's coordination. The crew worked seamlessly, responding to new threats and adjusting tactics in real time. This was not brute force. It was strategy, precision, and human ingenuity in action. As hours passed, the crew began to notice subtle signs of alien overconfidence. The armada maintained its formation rigidly, failing to adapt to the human ship's unconventional movements. Every calculated evasion by the risers highlighted the aliens' lack of flexibility. Humans, with their ability to think creatively and improvise, were beginning to gain a psychological advantage even before the first major confrontation. Commander Kane observed this carefully, understanding that patience and observation could be just as powerful as firepower. Despite the growing confidence, the crew never allowed themselves to become complacent. Every system check, every calculation, every alert was treated with utmost seriousness. They understood that the alien fleet could adapt quickly, and any mistake could be fatal. The tension on the bridge was palpable, a constant reminder of the dangers they faced. Yet within that tension there was also an undercurrent of excitement. Humans thrive under pressure, and the crew felt the thrill of facing what many would have considered impossible. Night fell across the distant planets they passed, though in space, the concept of day and night was meaningless. The stars remained constant, indifferent to the struggle of a single ship and its crew. Yet, even in this vast emptiness, the humans aboard the risers felt alive. Every decision mattered, every calculation had consequences, and every moment was filled with potential. The crew had trained for this, and now their skills were being tested in the most extreme environment imaginable. The alien fleet remained unaware of the true capabilities of the human vessel. They assumed the risers was just another small craft, easily destroyed if engaged directly. But humans had learned that unpredictability was one of the deadliest weapons in existence. The risers had already begun to execute maneuvers that would later be described as brilliant and daring. taking advantage of every small flaw in the alien formation. The crew moved as one, each action precise and deliberate, guided by years of preparation and the instinctual drive to survive. As the ship approached the inner boundary of the enemy system, sensors picked up faint signals indicating the main armada was aware of their approach. The full scale of the threat was becoming clear. Countless massive vessels glimmered in formation, their weapons systems already active and their intent unmistakable. The crew understood that the first real engagement was inevitable, yet fear did not dominate their minds. Instead, it was replaced by focus, clarity, and determination. They were ready to face whatever came next, armed with skill, courage, and the resolve that humans had honed over centuries of survival. Every member of the Reasers understood the stakes. They were facing overwhelming numbers, far superior technology, and an enemy confident in their victory. And yet, they also understood something fundamental. Humans had survived and thrived in impossible situations before. Every step of their journey, from the earliest days of exploration to the technological leaps they had made, had prepared them for this. The galaxy underestimated them, but that underestimation was now their greatest weapon. As they neared the edge of the alien fleet's detection range, Commander Kane made one final systems check and addressed the crew. His voice was calm but carried authority, a reminder that every action mattered. Stay focused. Trust your training. We are humanity's first and last line of defense here. Every decision counts. Every maneuver can save us or doom us. Remember, they underestimate us. That is our advantage. Use it wisely. The crew nodded, understanding the weight of his words. They were prepared, and their resolve was unbreakable. With a final surge of vengeance, the Risers moved deeper into the unknown, heading straight for the heart of the alien territory. The first strike was approaching, and the crew braced themselves for the test that would define them. The mission that would either cement their place in history or end in catastrophe. Every heartbeat echoed with anticipation. Every eye on the bridge was focused, every mind alert. Humans had only one ship, but that one ship carried the weight, hope, and ingenuity of an entire species. And as the Risers disappeared into the darkness, leaving the familiar safety of space near Earth behind, the crew felt the thrill of the challenge ahead. They were entering a battle that no one had dared to fight alone. And in that moment, despite the fear, despite the odds, they felt alive. They were ready to show the galaxy what one human ship could do. The alien fleet loomed ahead, like a wall of living metal and deadly intent, stretching across the emptiness of space as far as the human eye could perceive. The Risers, alone, against 100 times its size, moved steadily forward, its engines humming with restrained power. Every crew member on board felt the tension thick in the air, an almost physical pressure pressing down on them as the reality of the confrontation finally settled in. The moment they had trained for, planned for, and feared had arrived. They were about to engage a force that could destroy them in an instant, a force confident in its superiority, yet unaware of the human ingenuity that had brought the Risers this far. Commander Alaric Kane stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes scanning the holographic displays that projected the enemy formation in brilliant detail. The alien fleet was massive, their vessels glinting like metallic mountains, each one bristling with weapons designed to annihilate. From this distance, the crew could already detect the immense energy output of the fleet's primary cannons, capable of leveling planets if unleashed indiscriminately. But Kane knew that raw power was not enough. Numbers alone could not match human creativity, precision, and courage. He had spent his entire career preparing for a confrontation like this, and now he had to rely on everything he had learned to keep his crew alive. The first signals of engagement came quietly at first. A faint spike on the sensors indicating a patrol group of enemy scouts. These smaller vessels, faster and more agile than the main fleet, approached the Risers in formation, their intent unmistakable. The crew responded instantly, initiating the first test of the ship's weapons systems. Energy cannons powered up with a low hum, their targeting systems locking onto the approaching scouts with calculated precision. The ship fired, releasing concentrated beams of plasma that tore through the alien vessels before they could reach striking distance. Even in the chaos of battle, the crew executed maneuvers that were both precise and daring, utilizing the ship's agility to avoid potential counterattacks. As the patrol group was eliminated, the crew allowed themselves only a brief moment to breathe. There would be no rest. The alien fleet would not tolerate delays. Sensors reported the main armada beginning to adjust its formation, responding to the unexpected destruction of their scouts. They had underestimated the human vessel, and that miscalculation would prove costly. The Risers had already demonstrated the deadly efficiency of a single human ship, a fact that Commander Kane intended to exploit. Every move from here on would require perfect coordination and timing, and the crew knew the margin for error was microscopic. The first exchange of heavy fire began almost immediately after. Alien weapon systems powered up, unleashing torrents of energy and projectile fire toward the lone human ship. The hull of the Risers shuddered under the impact, the shields glowing bright as they absorbed each strike. Alarm lights flashed across the bridge as damage reports appeared on the monitors. Crew members moved quickly to contain any breaches, sealing compartments, redirecting power to critical systems and monitoring the structural integrity of the vessel. Despite the chaos, there was no panic. Each member of the crew had trained for moments like this, and their preparation now became the difference between life and death. The battle intensified as more alien vessels joined the fray. The sheer number of attackers was overwhelming. Their coordinated efforts designed to pin down the Reezers from multiple angles, but the humans aboard the ship were not ordinary soldiers. Their training allowed them to anticipate attacks, read enemy patterns, and exploit the smallest weaknesses. The ship's advanced targeting systems highlighted vulnerabilities in the alien formations, and the crew executed maneuvers that allowed them to strike hard and then disappear before the enemy could respond. It was a deadly dance, a combination of speed, precision, and intuition that even the most advanced alien minds struggled to predict. On the bridge, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Every crew member was fully engaged, their eyes moving constantly between monitors, sensors, and the holographic displays. The engineers worked furiously to maintain the power flow to shields and weapons, calculating adjustments to keep the ship operational despite the constant barrage. The weapons officers focused on targeting weak points in the enemy fleet, issuing rapid-fire commands that required split-second timing. Even the communications specialists were vital, ensuring that every internal signal was clear and that external transmissions did not reveal unnecessary information to the enemy. The Reezers functioned like a single organism, each member of the crew a vital organ in the body of the ship, working in perfect harmony to survive against impossible odds. The first major strike came unexpectedly. An alien frigate, much larger than the scouts, broke formation and moved aggressively toward the human vessel. Its weapons powered up, releasing a beam of energy designed to tear the Reezers apart. Commander Kane made a split-second decision, ordering the ship to perform a complex evasive maneuver that involved diving toward an asteroid field, weaving between massive space rocks while simultaneously firing back at the attacking frigate. The move was risky, but it paid off. The Reezers dodged the beam and fired concentrated plasma strikes that crippled the frigate, sending it tumbling into the void. The crew exhaled collectively, knowing that each successful strike increased their chances of survival and weakened the enemy's confidence. Despite these successes, the battle was far from over. Alien reinforcements arrived in waves, bringing heavier vessels into the fight. Each encounter tested the Reezers and its crew to the limits of endurance. The ship's shields were being pushed to maximum capacity, and the hull had taken minor damage in several areas. Engineers moved quickly to repair critical systems, rerouting energy from non-essential modules to maintain operational integrity. Commander Kane remained calm, issuing orders and analyzing enemy behavior with a level of focus that inspired confidence in his crew. He understood that panic or hesitation could be fatal, and he worked tirelessly to ensure that every decision was deliberate, calculated, and effective. The crew also began to notice subtle patterns in the enemy's attacks. The aliens, confident in their numbers and power, relied on predictable strategies. Their fleet maintained rigid formations, their weapons fire-synchronized but lacking flexibility. The humans exploited this immediately. By using the ship's agility and rapid maneuvering, the Reezers could strike vulnerable points, destroy or disable key vessels, and then retreat before the enemy could react effectively. Each strike was precise, surgical, and devastating, turning the human ship into a force multiplier. Despite its solitary nature, communication with Earth remained limited but essential. Commander Kane received occasional updates on galactic developments and strategic advice. Though the primary focus was on immediate survival, the human leadership monitored the engagement, understanding that this mission was as much a message as it was a battle. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long, and the actions of a single ship could change perceptions forever. The crew of the Reezers carried that responsibility with them, their courage and determination amplified by the knowledge that they were representing an entire species. Hours passed in a blur of movement, calculations, and energy blasts. The battle was relentless, testing the limits of human endurance and ingenuity. Crew members were exhausted, yet they continued to perform at peak levels. Their training, discipline, and focus allowed them to operate seamlessly, executing complex maneuvers and engaging multiple targets simultaneously. The Reezers had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of human resilience, a testament to the power of preparation, courage, and teamwork in the face of overwhelming odds. A pivotal moment arrived when an alien command vessel, massive and heavily armed, entered the fray. Its presence immediately shifted the balance, as its advanced weaponry and tactical coordination posed a serious threat to the human ship. Commander Kane analyzed the vessel, looking for vulnerabilities. The crew quickly adjusted their strategy, using the ship's speed and agility to divide the enemy's attention while concentrating fire on the command vessel's weaker points. It was a dangerous gamble, requiring perfect timing, coordination, and precision. One mistake could result in the loss of the Reezers, but the crew executed flawlessly, striking critical systems and forcing the command vessel to retreat temporarily. Throughout the engagement, the human crew relied not just on technology, but on their ability to think creatively and adapt under pressure. While alien forces relied on numbers and raw firepower, the humans leveraged unpredictability, rapid decision-making, and coordinated teamwork. Every strike, every maneuver, and every response was calculated to maximize efficiency while minimizing risk. Even in the chaos of battle, the crew remained disciplined, focused, and resolute. As the first major engagement concluded, the risers had survived intact, having inflicted significant damage on the alien fleet. The ship bore scars from the encounter, minor hull breaches and depleted energy reserves, but it remained operational. Crew members took a brief moment to assess the situation, repair systems, and adjust strategies for the battles that would follow. Despite the physical and emotional exhaustion, there was a sense of triumph. Against impossible odds, a single human ship had survived and struck fear into an enemy that had assumed victory. Commander Kane addressed the crew, his voice calm but filled with pride. "This is only the beginning. They thought they could overwhelm us, that we were insignificant. They were wrong. Every move we make from here on will define the future of humanity. Stay vigilant, stay focused. We fight not just to survive, but to prove that humans cannot be ignored." The crew responded with silent determination, understanding that the battle ahead would only grow more difficult, but confident in their ability to meet every challenge. As the risers moved further into enemy space, the crew reflected on the first engagement. They had faced near impossible odds and survived, proving that skill, courage, and strategy could rival even overwhelming numbers. The alien fleet would not forget this encounter, and humans had demonstrated that even one ship could make a difference. The crew understood that the next battle would be harder, the enemy more prepared, and the stakes higher than ever. Yet they also knew that humanity had already achieved what many thought impossible. They were alive, they were victorious, and they were ready for whatever came next. The first strike had shown them the power of human ingenuity, the value of teamwork, and the unyielding strength of human resolve. It had also revealed the limits of their endurance and the dangers that awaited in the deeper reaches of enemy space. The risers continued its journey, moving steadily and deliberately, ready to confront the larger fleet that lay ahead. Every crew member understood that they were part of something greater than themselves, something that could change the galaxy's perception of humans forever. The battle had reached a scale that few on Earth could imagine. The risers, though battered and worn from previous encounters, moved with a quiet precision that belied the chaos surrounding it. The alien fleet had realized that their assumptions about humanity were dangerously wrong. Their confidence had begun to waver, replaced by caution and confusion. Commander Alaric Kane and his crew understood that this moment was critical. The enemy was powerful, their numbers overwhelming, but arrogance had left openings. It was time to turn the tide. Every human aboard the risers knew that the next move could change the course of the war in their lives. As the ship approached the core of the enemy armada, the full scale of the threat became clear. Massive warships bristling with energy cannons and missile launchers filled the void, forming a barrier that seemed impenetrable. The alien command vessels coordinated with machine-like precision, their weapon systems locking onto the risers even as the smaller craft surrounded it. The ship's shields flickered under constant fire. Energy reserves strained under the demand of rapid maneuvers, and the hull creaked under repeated impacts. Crew members were at the limits of their endurance, their muscles aching and minds razor-sharp from hours of continuous battle. Yet despite the overwhelming odds, fear did not dominate. Determination did. Kane called the crew together, issuing orders for the maneuver that could become the defining moment of the engagement. "We've tested them. They've reacted predictably. They assume their numbers guarantee victory. That assumption is their weakness. We will exploit it. Follow the plan exactly, but remain flexible. Every second counts." The crew acknowledged, knowing that the plan was daring, almost suicidal in its audacity but necessary. They were humanity's first line of defense, and they would not fail. The first phase of the maneuver involved extreme speed and agility. The risers darted toward the enemy's formation, weaving between massive alien vessels, each movement calculated to create confusion. Alien fire came in torrents, streaking across space in brilliant bursts of energy. The shields absorbed most of the strikes, but some slipped through, forcing the crew to react instantly. Engineers redirected power to critical areas, sealing breaches, while weapons officers fired rapid volleys that struck precise weak points in the alien hulls. The effect was immediate. Enemy vessels began to stagger under the concentrated assault, their once unified formation faltering as the risers exploited every flaw. The aliens quickly realized that this was no ordinary attack. The human vessels' movements were unpredictable, yet highly effective. Traditional formations became ineffective against a single ship capable of striking multiple points with surgical precision. The alien command vessels attempted to recalibrate, issuing new orders to coordinate the fleet, but human ingenuity continued to outpace them. The risers maneuvered around the edges of the formation, targeting key power nodes and weapon systems, effectively disabling larger ships without direct confrontation. Each strike was calculated not just to damage, but to sow confusion and panic among the enemy crews. Amid the chaos, The crew worked as a single organism, each person contributing to the survival and offensive capability of the ship. The navigator anticipated enemy movements, plotting courses that maximized evasive potential while maintaining attack efficiency. Weapons officers executed complex targeting sequences almost instinctively, firing precisely timed volleys that struck vulnerabilities exposed by the alien fleet's rigidity. Engineers continuously adapted, rerouting power to shields, engines, and weapons to ensure the ship remained operational under punishing conditions. Communication specialists monitored every channel, intercepting enemy signals and feeding critical information to Kane, who made split-second strategic decisions with unparalleled clarity. The turning point came when the Urises executed a maneuver that no alien commander could have predicted. Using a combination of speed, stealth, and environmental advantage, the ship plunged into a dense asteroid field at the heart of the enemy formation. The aliens assumed that such a path was too dangerous for any vessel, yet the humans navigated flawlessly, weaving between massive rocks, using them as shields and ambush points. From this concealed vantage, the Urises unleashed a concentrated barrage aimed at the central command vessel, the largest and most heavily armed of the fleet. The strike was devastating, crippling critical systems and causing massive disarray among nearby ships. The alien fleet faltered. Vessels collided, fired upon one another in confusion, and struggled to maintain cohesion. Commander Kane and his crew pressed the advantage, exploiting the enemy's disarray with calculated precision. Each strike was timed to maximize impact while minimizing exposure to counterattack. The human ship became a force multiplier capable of destroying multiple ships with a single well-coordinated attack. Even as the enemy attempted to regroup, the Urises continued to move unpredictably, striking where least expected, each action calculated to amplify chaos within the alien ranks. Throughout the engagement, crew members faced moments of extreme danger. One engineer barely avoided a hull breach from a stray energy beam, while a weapons officer had to reroute systems mid-firing sequence to prevent overload. Every crew member relied on intense focus, discipline, and trust in one another. Fatigue weighed heavily, but there was no room for error. Mistakes could lead to catastrophic failure, yet the human crew's determination never wavered. They had trained for this, and every skill, every decision, every ounce of courage was now being tested under the most extreme conditions imaginable. Asterisk. As the battle raged, Commander Kane identified the final opportunity to turn the tide decisively. The enemy command vessel, already weakened by previous strikes, had exposed critical systems while attempting to stabilize its formation. Kane ordered the Urises to execute a precision strike that required perfect timing and coordination. The crew responded instantly, every movement synchronized to the microsecond. Energy cannons fired, missiles struck in perfect alignment, and auxiliary systems delivered concentrated fire at the ship's exposed core. The result was spectacular and devastating. The alien command vessel's systems overloaded, sending a chain reaction of explosions through the surrounding fleet. Panic spread through the alien ranks. Ships attempted to flee, only to be caught in crossfire or trapped by their own disrupted formations. The human ship, though alone, had effectively shattered the cohesion of the enemy armada. The crew of the Urises pushed forward relentlessly, targeting the remaining vessels with surgical strikes, disabling weapons, and leaving behind minimal structural damage to avoid unnecessary destruction. Every action was measured, every decision purposeful, designed to maximize effectiveness, while conserving energy and resources for future encounters. Despite the intensity of the battle, there were moments of awe and admiration among the crew. They witnessed the raw scale of alien technology, the sophistication of vessels built to destroy entire planets. And yet they also saw the flaws in overconfidence and rigid tactics. Humanity, with a single ship and a dedicated crew, had turned vulnerability into strength. Every human on board felt a sense of pride, knowing that they were proving to the galaxy that ingenuity, courage, and determination could rival even the most powerful enemies. As the dust of battle settled, the Urises remained operational, though scarred from the engagement. Shields flickered intermittently, minor hull breaches were patched, and energy reserves were carefully monitored. Crew members allowed themselves only brief moments of respite before preparing for potential counterattacks. The alien fleet was weakened, disorganized, and reeling from the unexpected efficiency and audacity of a single human vessel. Commander Kane took a moment to address his crew, acknowledging their extraordinary performance and the critical role each member played in the victory. "This is what humanity is capable of," Kane said, his voice steady and filled with pride. "We've faced overwhelming odds and survived. We've shown that courage, strategy, and unity can overcome numbers and power. This is only the beginning. Our mission continues. But today, we have proven something vital. Humans cannot be ignored, underestimated, or defeated easily." The crew responded with quiet determination, understanding that this turning point marked not only a tactical victory but a psychological one as well. They had shattered the enemy's confidence and proven that even one ship could challenge an entire armada. The aftermath of the engagement left the Urises in a position of strength. The alien fleet, though still formidable, was now fractured and demoralized. Reports indicated that the command structure of the Armada was severely disrupted, leaving many vessels operating independently and without coordination. This presented new opportunities for the human ship to exploit, but also new dangers. Commander Kane knew that while they had achieved a critical turning point, the conflict was far from over. Vigilance, strategy, and continued adaptability would be essential for survival in the battles to come. For the crew, the turning point of the battle was both a moment of triumph and a reminder of the challenges ahead. They had faced the might of the alien fleet, tested the limits of their skills and endurance, and emerged victorious against overwhelming odds. Yet the engagement also highlighted the stakes and the dangers that remained. Every system, every calculation, every decision would continue to matter as the Reezers pressed deeper into enemy territory. The crew was exhausted but resolute, aware that their actions had already begun to shift the balance of power in the galaxy. The Reezers moved forward, its hull glowing with residual energy from the battle. The crew's spirits lifted yet tempered by the understanding that this was only one victory in a larger war. Commander Kane and his officers began planning for the next phase, analyzing enemy behavior, preparing for further encounters, and ensuring that the ship was ready for whatever challenges awaited. The humans aboard the vessel had achieved the impossible, turning the tide with courage, skill, and ingenuity. They were living proof that even against overwhelming odds, determination and strategy could prevail. And as the lone ship sailed deeper into enemy space, the crew knew that this moment, the turning point, would define the course of the conflict. They had shattered the illusion of alien invincibility, proving that humans, though small in number, could wield intelligence, courage, and teamwork to devastating effect. The galaxy had witnessed a moment that would echo for generations. One ship, guided by human ingenuity, changing the course of a battle, and perhaps the course of history itself. The battlefield stretched across space like a shattered mosaic, alien vessels drifting in disarray, their once unified formation shattered by the relentless precision and ingenuity of a single human ship. The Reezers floated among the remnants of chaos, battered yet intact, its hull bearing the scars of countless impacts, its shields flickering intermittently but holding firm. The crew moved with weary determination, tending to systems, patching hull breaches, and monitoring power levels, knowing that victory was still fragile and that danger could return at any moment. Despite exhaustion and injuries, there was a quiet sense of triumph in the air, a feeling that they had not merely survived, they had achieved something unprecedented. Commander Alaric Kane walked the bridge, observing his crew with a mixture of pride and solemnity. Each member had given everything they had, working as a single organism to navigate through impossible odds. Their training, intuition, and courage had been tested to the extreme. And now, in the aftermath, Kane allowed himself a moment to reflect on the magnitude of what they had accomplished. Humanity, underestimated for centuries, had proven its power and resilience in a way no alien fleet could ignore. The galaxy was beginning to learn a lesson that would echo for generations. Humans were not weak, and even one ship could change the tide of battle. Even as the crew celebrated quietly, there was no room for complacency. Alien forces were still present, and scattered pockets of resistance remained. Smaller vessels that had escaped earlier strikes were regrouping, attempting to repair systems and re-establish communication with distant command ships. Kane knew that these remnants could pose a serious threat if left unchecked. He ordered the crew to maintain vigilance, scanning every sector for signs of movement and preparing weapons systems for any further engagement. The Reezers was ready to strike again if necessary, but Kane's strategic mind also recognized the value of retreat and regrouping. They had delivered a decisive blow, and survival required careful planning as much as courage. As repairs continued, crew members reflected on the intensity of the past hours. The stress, fear, and adrenaline had pushed each of them to their limits. Engineers moved tirelessly, recalibrating shields and restoring power to damaged systems. Weapons officers double-checked targeting protocols and reloaded energy cells, ensuring that every system was prepared for the possibility of renewed combat. Even the navigator, who had plotted countless maneuvers to dodge enemy fire, took a brief moment to breathe, staring out into the void at the distant stars that seemed so indifferent to human struggles yet held the promise of endless opportunity. Each person aboard understood the stakes, and felt a shared pride in their accomplishment. The human victory was not only physical but psychological. The alien fleet, confident in its overwhelming numbers, had been shattered by the audacity and precision of one ship. Word of the encounter began to ripple across the galaxy, even reaching distant allies and neutral systems. Humans had demonstrated that strategic thinking, courage, and innovation could overcome brute force. Enemy civilizations would remember the Reezers, and stories of the lone ship's audacity would spread as both warning and legend. For the crew, this knowledge added a sense of responsibility. They had not just survived, they had altered perceptions, challenged assumptions, and left an indelible mark on history. On the bridge, Kane addressed his crew, his voice calm but carrying the weight of authority and pride. We have done what many thought impossible. Against overwhelming numbers, we have survived. We have shown that humans are not to be underestimated, But our mission continues. Every action we take will shape the galaxy's view of humanity. Stay vigilant, stay prepared, and never forget the courage that brought us this far." The crew responded with quiet affirmation, their faces reflecting exhaustion yet illuminated with a shared sense of accomplishment. Every member knew they had been part of something historic, a moment that would define the future of human spacefarers for generations. As the Rhesus moved through the aftermath of battle, the ship itself bore witness to the cost of engagement. Scorched hulls, drifting alien debris, and the flicker of failing systems created a stark reminder that victory was never guaranteed. Crew members moved with efficiency and care, addressing every vulnerability, repairing damage, and restoring systems to full capacity. Despite their fatigue, there was no hesitation. Every action mattered. The safety of the ship, the lives of the crew, and the success of humanity's mission depended on it. Communication with Earth provided a brief but powerful connection to home. Messages from leaders, scientists, and families reminded the crew of what they were fighting for. They were not merely soldiers in an isolated conflict, they were the representatives of a species, carrying the hopes, dreams, and pride of billions across the stars. These messages offered encouragement, and for a brief moment, crew members allowed themselves a sense of relief, knowing that Earth celebrated their survival and the decisive blow they had delivered. Yet there was no time to linger. The galaxy was vast, and new challenges awaited. Even as the battle's intensity faded, the human crew reflected on what had been learned. The alien fleet, though technologically superior in many ways, had been predictable, rigid, and overconfident. Humans, with their ability to improvise, adapt, and think creatively under pressure, had turned disadvantage into advantage. Every strategy, every maneuver, every coordinated strike had relied on the human mind as much as the ship's technology. This realization filled the crew with pride, reinforcing the importance of courage, teamwork, and innovation in the face of overwhelming odds. The Rhesus itself became a symbol, not merely a vessel of war but a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Its engines hummed steadily, its hull patched and strengthened, and its crew ready for the next challenge. The ship had achieved the impossible. A single human vessel, alone in enemy territory, had shattered a fleet designed to overwhelm it. The story of the Rhesus would travel far, inspiring allies and intimidating enemies. Humanity's presence in the galaxy would no longer be ignored. Even a solitary ship could change the course of conflict, and that knowledge would shape interstellar politics, strategy, and perception for years to come. The crew took a brief moment to honor those who had fought bravely, acknowledging sacrifices and challenges endured during the engagement. Though no lives had been lost, the physical and emotional toll was evident. Bruises, cuts, and exhaustion were marks of endurance, symbols of the courage that had carried them through impossible odds. Each crew member understood that they had been tested in ways few could comprehend, and that their unity, trust, and resolve had made all the difference in the following hours. The Rhesus continued to navigate the aftermath of battle, ensuring that all enemy vessels capable of regrouping were monitored and neutralized if necessary. Crew members remained alert, knowing that the first engagement had only revealed the potential of the human vessel, and that enemies would adapt in the future. Yet there was confidence, hard-won and deserved. They had faced overwhelming odds, and emerged victorious, proving that a single ship, guided by skill, courage, and strategy, could shape the galaxy. As the ship traveled deeper into the void, the crew gazed out at the stars, reflecting on the vastness of space and the scope of their mission. Earth, now a distant blue dot, remained the home they fought to protect, the source of motivation that had carried them through endless calculations, maneuvers, and battles. The galaxy beyond held new challenges, new civilizations, and new threats. But the experience of the Rhesus and its crew had forged confidence. Humanity had proven its capability, and the crew knew that this moment would inspire countless generations to come. In private moments, the crew allowed themselves small reflections on the meaning of their actions. They had not merely survived, they had changed the perception of humanity across the galaxy. Their courage and ingenuity had proven that even a single vessel, guided by determination and skill, could achieve what many had thought impossible. Each crew member felt a quiet pride, knowing that their names and actions would be remembered, not just as participants in a battle, but as pioneers, symbols of human resilience and ingenuity. Commander Kane remained vigilant, aware that leadership extended beyond tactical decisions. He walked the bridge, offering guidance, encouragement, and reassurance, reminding each crew member of their importance to the mission and to humanity as a whole. His presence reinforced the unity of the crew, their trust in one another, and their collective determination to continue despite fatigue and uncertainty. Humanity's fate, in that moment, rested in the hands of those aboard the Rhesus, and Kane carried that responsibility with calm resolve. As the last remnants of the alien fleet withdrew, fleeing the decisive blows delivered by the human ship, the Rhesus had achieved what few could have imagined. A single vessel had survived, navigated through chaos, and inflicted significant damage on a force designed to overwhelm it. The crew allowed themselves a collective sense of triumph, tempered by the understanding that vigilance remained essential. Every battle was a lesson, and humanity had learned more in this engagement than the galaxy could ever predict. The legend of the Rhesus began to take shape immediately. Across distant stars, stories of a lone human vessel striking fear into the heart of a mighty fleet spread like wildfire. Allies and neutrals marveled at the audacity and precision of the crew, while enemies recalculated their strategies, wary of underestimating humans in the future. The Rhesus was no longer just a ship, it was a symbol of human courage, determination, and ingenuity, a testament to what a single, united crew could achieve in the face of overwhelming odds. As the ship set a course back towards safer regions of space, the crew allowed themselves a moment of reflection, realizing that they had accomplished something extraordinary. They had faced impossible odds, demonstrated unmatched skill and courage, and proven to the galaxy that humans could not be dismissed. The Rhesus had survived, and more than that, it had succeeded. Every crew member carried the pride of humanity, the knowledge that their actions had altered the perception of their species, and the certainty that they had made history. Finally, as the Rhesus sailed quietly through the stars, the crew could sense a shift in the galaxy. Humans, once underestimated, were now forces to be reckoned with. Even one ship, guided by courage, intelligence, and unity, could make the impossible possible. And in that realization, each crew member felt an unshakable bond with one another, a shared triumph that would echo through their lives, through Earth, and across the stars. Humanity had proven itself, and the story of the Rhesus would become legend, a testament to the power of determination, ingenuity, and the indomitable spirit of one ship and its crew.